Well, thanks for clicking on to the Easter weekend 2023 edition of Vogan's European Outlook for it is Wednesday, the 5th of April. And do you remember this? Yeah, this was back on the 19th of April 2020 in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdown. This was taken at 5:15 in the evening on the A9 between Newtonmore and Aviemore, and there was not a car that was seen. I was actually on my way up to Inverness and Invergordon delivering for Farm Foods that day, so that was the reason why I was out and about, and that was the reason why I was able to take the photograph. I wasn't breaking the law. I was, of course, delivering food to the shop. But thanks for clicking on. Like I say, the subscriptions over the last, 18 months or so has jumped from, a mere 1,000 subscribers to 4,500, and the views have now hit over 1 million for the channel. So I really, really appreciate everybody's support, everybody's view, everybody's like, the share, and indeed the subscription. And there is a lot more content to come in the coming weeks and months as we look towards the summer season. And indeed, believe it or not, I will be talking about the winter of 2023-24 as well. So plenty of reason to stay tuned. It is a natural time of the year when a lot of people start to lose a little bit of interest in the weather. You lose the snow and ice risk and whatnot, and people do drop off. So I do encourage you, if you're interested in meteorology, interested in weather, do stay tuned, because I always strive to deliver some unique weather content, looking at the big picture, looking at the global aspects, looking at sea surface temperatures, the connection between ocean and atmosphere. Of course, every Sunday I do a global weather and climate report, looking at the extremes around the world. I do touch on climate as well and the issues that that brings up also. So yeah, stay tuned, and thanks for watching, of course. So yeah, what a remarkable scene that was back 2 years ago. Almost, it's actually not. It's not until you sit back and actually look back and realize, did that really happen? It just feels like in the midst of that, we were never going to get out of it, and we're just stuck in this lockdown. You weren't able to go anywhere, you weren't able to really do anything, and it was a very, very tough time. And I think the fallout from that continues to live on people's mental health, finance, the economy, of course, has been suffering significantly as well, and of course, businesses struggling to continue recovering from that pandemic. So the knock-on effects will be for many, many years to come. And I don't think really our life will be the exact same as what it was pre-COVID, for the future, because I think really society has changed. The way businesses run has changed also. So yeah, it was an amazing time to live in, and and obviously we have to think of the people that have lost their lives through COVID as well. This was the year after, by the way. This is 2020. No, well, this is 2022. So I beg your pardon. So that the first images were 2020. This is 2022. Chaos on the way to Dover, and we did, of course, see just back over the weekend and even the early portion of this week, chaos at Dover, people trying to get away for the Easter break. So, yeah, we're seeing that snap back from nothing to all of a sudden everybody wanting to get here, there, and everywhere. I think I've rambled on for 4 minutes and I've not even mentioned weather yet. So, anyway, just a few thoughts, obviously. Looks as if we're going to have this little bit of a fight between Atlantic, low pressure trying to move in from the west, high pressure building over Scandinavia, pushing that weather that's trying to come in from the west back. And it looks as if, for the majority of the Easter weekend, it's high and it's dry. And we're also going to see plenty of sunshine when the sun does shine. We are going to see temperatures respond 16, possibly 18, maybe even an isolated 19 over the Easter weekend. So we'll play through both the GFS and the ECMWF. We'll look at the comparisons. There's some small differences between the two models, especially when it comes to that front trying to move in from the west. It looks as if we are going to have low pressure back in control, by the way, Easter Monday and into Tuesday. But until we get there, once we get this weather system currently over the UK, eastwards, high pressure will settle in, and it looks as if we're going to see some fine, dry weather. And I'm sure that is welcome news for many that has seen such a wet March. So we'll play through the loop here off the GFS. You can see that area of high pressure. It looks rather innocuous over Scandinavia, Finland, northwest Russia. As that frontal system clears to the east, we're going to see a little bit of a development of low pressure that may enhance the shower activity down the eastern side of Scotland, down the eastern side of England as well. We're going to see some shower activity over the mainland. And then you notice the little kink in the isobars here representing that area of high pressure settling in. So there's the development of that low, as you can see here, as it moves out over the North Sea during the course of tomorrow. So like I say, we may see some hang back rain, shower activity. We're going to see plenty of sunshine as well. So the temperature is going to respond very nicely in that April sunshine, of course. And then you notice here, as we continue to play through the loop, there's that little area of low pressure that developed. Notice the area of high pressure over northwestern Russia continuing to strengthen. We've also got an area of low pressure that's got this frontal system well out to the west over the Atlantic. And what we're going to see is we're going to see this little tug of war between the building high over Scandinavia, the area of low pressure over the Atlantic. Of course, that area of low pressure on this frontal system wants to move towards the UK. But as you can see here off the model, that high builds. Notice here that the area of high pressure over southern Norway connects up, becomes a larger high with that Russian high. As that happens, we're going to start to see this area of frontal low pressure, frontal system associated with the low, trying to move east, but it's going to continue to come up against the resistance of this area of high pressure. Along the east coast, it's going to remain breezy. It's going to feel chilly. We may see some sprinkly rain out of that, thick cloud, that kind of har over those cold waters of the North Sea, of course, the coldest time of the year. But in the sunshine over the mainland, we're going to see the temperatures respond into the mid to high teens, I think, fairly widely during Good Friday. So this is Good Friday, as you can see here. Into Saturday, you notice here that we've got winds coming underneath this area of high pressure, crossing over the North Sea, picking up moisture, so it's enhancing the cloud deck along the east coast. But get yourself inland, but particularly so over the hills of eastern and Scotland and England. We're going to see the temperatures really respond very nicely indeed. It's going to be warm in the west, cooler in the east. Continuing to play through the course of the weekend, you notice here that frontal system continues to try and push eastwards, possibly clipping the Atlantic coast of Ireland, northwestern Northern Ireland. And then, as you can see here, as we progress through Easter Sunday, we maintain high pressure dominance, a mix of sun and cloud, especially in the east, always warmer, always sunnier in the west of the British Isles. And the GFS looks to highlight that an area of low pressure actually develops on that frontal system, and then it kind of runs up towards the Outer Hebrides during the early and middle portion of Easter Monday here. So eventually that moisture, that frontal system does make inroads as the area of high pressure over Scandinavia starts to weaken. And then it looks as if we're actually going to open the door to areas of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. And that area of low pressure, by the way, we need to keep an eye on. Yes, it looks as if at the moment the majority of its wind and stormiest conditions stays to the northwest, out over the Atlantic. But as we get closer to the time, that area of low pressure, may not be as deep. It may be as deep. It may be closer to the UK. It may be further away. So we need to keep an eye on that, of course, as we go forward here. Plenty of unsettled conditions across the central Mediterranean, as you can see. So, looking at the ECMWF, the same scenario as we go through the next few days. That frontal system moves west to east across the UK. It develops an area of low pressure, as can be seen here. Enhancement of shower activity, possibly longer spells of rain on the eastern side of the British Isles. Then there's that area of high pressure, keeping an eye on Scandinavia and northwest Russia. That high will continue to build. It will then eventually start to force the delay, not the denial, but the delay of that frontal system out over the Atlantic. Keeps the easterly flow going, coolest in the east, warmest in the west. You know the overall idea now. And then as we progress towards Easter Monday, it looks as if it's going to be late Easter Sunday, if not early Easter Monday, that we start to see the breakdown of that high pressure system when we get that area of low pressure. Notice here that the ECMWF doesn't have anywhere near the same area of low pressure as the GFS has. So these are the subtle changes, the subtle differences that we've got in the models. Looking at that's the snow actually. We have seen some snow over parts of the Alps, the Pyrenees, parts of central Italy. Of course, we've seen record snow in parts of Serbia and the Balkan region, northern portions of Romania, northwestern Moldova, west central portions of Ukraine, up into the Baltic states, and indeed Scandinavia as well, as you can see here. Looking at the 850 temperatures real quick, and you can see here that cold air eventually does start to weaken. And we'll have this kind of battle of the air masses. Scandinavian high pressure trying to push fresher air westwards. Atlantic low pressure trying to push colder air, maritime air towards the UK here. Eventually, that area of low pressure does win out. We get this little surge of milder conditions, as you can see here, before the frontal system moves through with colder air. So yeah, that's the overall general idea. It looks as if high pressure over Scandinavia regroups once again during the second half of the weekend. So, or next week, should I say. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. We'll have a little update over the next day or so with regards to the Easter forecast. Talk about any kind of changes from the current run that I'm showing you. Stay tuned. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll hopefully see you again tomorrow with more. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.